The Los Angeles Wave was one of the best teams in Season 3. They boasted a star-studded roster and an incredible regular season record, and were looking like one of the favorites going into the postseason, which makes what happened in the postseason all the more disappointing. Let's see what went down. However, before the Los Angeles Wave, they were the Los Angeles Rangers. This team and owner is honestly pretty unknown, so there's not really much to say about them. All we do know is that a couple days before the start of the regular season, the owner and team left, which left the Los Angeles spot open. So to fill the spot, Dionysus came in. Dion was one of the big bosses of Altitude, co-owning it with Crysdale 13. Dion was a part of the New York Excel for seasons 1 and 2, who won both seasons, so he is definitely championship material. However, he would only be a manager for the team, as he played for the Beijing Lions in season 3. This is where the team went from the Los Angeles Rangers to the Los Angeles Wave, and they basically had no expectations as they barely had a roster as the season began. The first game for the Wave was a Battle of Los Angeles versus the LA Gladiators. Gators were looking like a very high-profile team, with Mist and Troll looking like the best tank line in the league, and the DPS showing massive flexibility. And the Wave, they still didn't have a full roster yet. Going into the Glads game, they had to play with two ringers, Rose on hitscan DPS and Mecha as a main support, but their actual players is where it got interesting. For tanks, they picked up Bullet and Pings. Both were respectable, though Bullet tended to be very aggressive and only really shined on Reinhardt. For DPS, their one actual pickup was Evster, and this was a great pickup. Evster showed prowess on many projectile characters and had played for the Paris Ping Sox in Season 2, who finished in 4th place. Finally, their one support pickup was Raven SF. Raven was the owner of Shanghai Shenanigans in Season 2, and if you watched the Shanghai SiR, you would know that they disappointed pretty hard. Regardless, Raven was still a very respectable player. Now for the actual match, yeah, Wave got destroyed. I mean, what can you expect from a team of basically ringers facing off against a top team at the time? It was just not pretty. However, despite this, they did not lose any hope, nor were any expectations broken. All they had to do was get an actual roster. And build they did. To fill out their tank line, they brought on Chlorine, who transferred from the Atlanta Reign. Chlorine is a main tank player who can flex to most off tanks and is overall very talented and energetic in comms as well. To finish the DPS line, they brought on Milk Tea, who transferred from the Beijing Lions. Milk was a superstar talent and Rookie of the Year in Season 2, so it was a fantastic option.
And you know, he also lost to Ping Sox!
And finally, they brought on Oracle on main support, who is a very respectable player. This was also when Raven was announced as a full manager of the team. So overall, the roster consisted of Bullet, Chlorine, Pings, Evster, Milk, Raven, and Oracle. And with this roster, most actually expected Wave to be pretty good, though no one could say for sure if they would be a top team. The first game for Wave with the new roster was against the Tokyo Drift. Drift was a mid-tier team at the time, and thanks to Sleep being picked up and integrated as the starting main support, Wave took a decisive 3-0 victory and showed that they would not be a bottom feeder. They then continued this momentum into a 3-0 victory over the Chattanooga Chimps. Wave gained a lot of confidence in these matches, which would help them in their next match. This match was against the Shanghai Shenanigans. Shanghai recently rebuilt as well with the new roster and actually looked like a pretty good team, beating the Toronto Deviant pretty convincingly. However, Wave dismantled that hype train pretty well, only dropping one map to Shanghai and winning in a 3-1 fashion.
Let's go, dude. I don't know if they're going to be able to touch.
I don't think they can. No.
They can't. They can't
touch.
touch.
Fire to clean up. It's GG's.
What a game. I think the Milk Fire really pulled it out.
To end off the beginning of the season, Wave ended up facing off against the Toronto Deviant as well and took a dominant 3-0 win. Overall, Wave was 4-1 going into the midseason. The midseason is where we saw some massive roster changes go through for Wave. For one, Milk left the team to go join the Atlanta Reign, as most of his friends were on that team. To replace him, they picked up Fusa, a hitscan talent mostly known for grinding Kovacs a lot, but still a very promising talent. They also picked up Buzz as a flex DPS and Happy as a main support. This time period was also where we saw the team get significantly more toxic, with players such as Chlorine and Raven often disagreeing with each other a lot. This made the mental of the team quite low overall. But let's forget all of that and move on to their next match, which was against the London Aces. Aces were essentially the worst team in the league at the time, so it was natural that Wave would win. What is surprising though is that Wave did end up dropping a map, though further investigation lets us know that Chlorine's Discord crashed, so they lost a lot of crucial fight planning and communication. Their next match was against the Rome Legion, and despite them being an above-average team, Wave dealt with them fairly well in a confident 3-1 fashion. Their next match, though, was far more interesting, which was against the Philadelphia Phoenix. Many predicted this match to be quite good, though no one really expected Wave to lose. But they did. To be fair, Phoenix had made a lot of suspicious pickups during that game, and that match overall is a fairly shady topic to talk about. But regardless, Wave lost in a 3-1 fashion.
Also during this match, this fucking clown Reed played Mercy! No wonder they lost.
This is also when Flex DPS Buzz left the team to pursue other games. Their next match was against the Guangzhou Gambit. Gambit, despite being a fan-favorite team, was not the best, and fell to Wave in a decisive 3-1. However, since Gambit was now out of playoff contention, they did end up dropping all their players, and one would find their way onto Wave. That player was Udi Duty, who was most known for his Hog and would be their Hog specialist. However, behind the scenes of this Gambit match is where some interesting things were brewing. For one, after all the toxicity that occurred, Raven SF left the team to go play for the Atlanta Reign. Sleep also left after the Gambit match to go play for the Florida Thieves, as he just did not like everything going on in the Wave system. To replace these two, they picked up Cinder, who was a flex support who played for the Beijing Lions for a singular game as a temporary player. So after all this drama and all this change, Wave was ready for the end of the season. Their first match at the end of the regular season was against the Houston Hammers. Everyone expected Wave to win fairly convincingly, but due to Wave playing some new lineups and being a bit rusty, Hammers pushed them to the limits, a full 5 maps, but Wave was able to clutch up, and it was actually a reverse sweep as well, which is a nice bonus. Their next game was against the Atlanta Reign, and Wave took this one in a clean 3-1, and also won against previous teammates Milk and Raven as well, which was a nice touch. Their next game, though, was pretty spicy, as it was against the Vancouver Vibe. This game had a lot of toxicity going behind it, as many members of Vibe said that this would be a very easy game. And it was, though not in their favor, as Wave were able to take it in a 3-0.
Oh yeah, wasn't Cam supposed to, like, I don't know, leave the league? When did that happen?
And finally, to end their season, they squared off against the Washington Injustice and took a dominant 3-0 win. To wrap up their season, Wave did get to enjoy some accolades, such as former teammate Sleep getting a Roll Star and Evster getting a Roll Star and MVP nomination, so congrats to them. Speaking of Sleep, he actually came back to the LA Wave for their playoff run, as he was just not really vibing with some of the stuff going on in Florida. And now, the postseason was here, and while Wave looked great on the outside with an 11-2 record and the number 2 seed overall, on the inside, this was not the case. This was around the time that many teams were transitioning to the new meta that centered around a Winston Diva Sombra Reaper brawl style. But despite boasting an incredible DPS line, Wave could not find the correct damage duo to suit them in this meta. For one, Evster was unable to play the game for roughly a week or two, which meant that Chlorine had to come in and play the Reaper. Yes, a main tank player on damage. This was a huge change, as now Bullet was the full-time starting main tank, something that hadn't been in place since like week 2. And once again, they had a main tank player on DPS. Despite this, and since most people did not really know about it, most people liked Wave's chances and put them as one of the tournament favorites going in. We would just have to see how they did. Overall, Wave felt pretty good going into the playoffs, especially since their first game was against the Shanghai Shenanigans. Overall, Shanghai was not looked at as that great of a team, especially with teams such as the Chengdu Bandits playing them very closely. Because of this, many felt that Wave would win fairly easily, but that is not what happened. Not at all. To start, Bullet looked way out of place. Despite looking sharp on his signature Reinhardt, on most maps where he had to play Monkey, he was just not up to par. And then there was the Chlorine DPS.
Dude, it's like people playing Hog against us.
Lauren, I have
Clip it.
The camera specifically raised so that it saw that. Yeah, it wasn't pretty. Overall, Wave just looked dysfunctional as a team, and even though they managed to take a map, Shanghai still won and knocked them out way earlier than everyone expected. After this match, Chlorine left the team as he was overall just boomed from the game, which is honestly pretty sad considering how good he did all season aside from the DPS performance. This put Evster back as the starting DPS. Their first match of the losers bracket was against the Los Angeles Gladiators, another battle for LA. Glads, like their LA counterpart, also did not look that good as they endured a tough 3-0 loss at the hands of the Florida Thieves, and Wave was still pretty confident in themselves. And honestly, this game was really good, with maps like Dorado going down to the wire. This series went the distance, 5 maps, and in the end, Wave was able to clutch it out and keep their playoff hopes alive.
Might be able to take this point back, but they have to use both those key ultimates to win this fight, and that leaves them for nothing with the next fight if they do take this.
Yeah, the AMP comes through, and so does the Death Blossom, taking it 2-3.
And that's game.
It doesn't even matter. LA Wave taking it.
They pulled the trigger, and you know what they...
Their second match of the losers bracket was against the Houston Hammers, and despite Wave being pretty concerned with how close Houston played the Beijing Lions, Hammers ended up forfeiting, moving Wave to the losers semifinals. Though this is where they met the Vancouver Vibe once again. Vibe was really heating up, and rebounding after their quarterfinal loss took dominant wins over the Excalibur and the Thieves. Overall, this game was looking to be really good, but like the last time these two teams met, it was a lot more cut and dry than it would seem. Wave fell 0-3, and despite having the skill, they just could not seem to finish it out and left Altitude Esports Mock Overwatch League Season 3 in 4th place overall.
That's just in the middle of nowhere.
And this is it! Ladies and gentlemen, the Los Angeles Wave are knocked out. The Vancouver Vibe put the L into LA.
Beautiful. You know, that's the number 8 seed, that's the number 2 seed, by the way.
That was agreed. I remember.
All in all, it is sad how Wave ended, considering they were probably the most dominant team during the regular season next to the Beijing Lions. But that still does not mean they did not have a killer season, and they certainly brought some great games in Altitude. My final score for the Los Angeles Wave in Season 3 is an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Season Interview, and a big shout out to Bullet for helping me with the information on this episode. Catch you later. Hey guys, this is Josh TechUp, guy who edits all the SiRs. I just want to apologize. I forgot to mention that halfway through the season, at like different points, the Wave also picked up Saturn as a support player and Googie as like a Doomfist specialist. I didn't realize this until after I was finished editing, and at that point, it was like at a point where I would have to do like so much more work to actually put them in. So I just thought I would put it here in the video. So super sorry about that, and can't wait to see you guys next time. Peace.